Hey again! In today's lesson, I'm going to demonstrate how to expand your first idea into a fully structured song. You'll usually have a few sections that differ from each other, and some might repeat with variations. The order of these sections is what we refer to as song structure. Structure is dependent on the type of track you're making and where it lives on the spectrum between popular or traditional music and more experimental music. Pop has kind of established rules for what sounds good in the execution of most musical material. There's a very common structure that's verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, or A, B, C, B. Experimental structure might deviate from that to any degree. You could have lots more sections, lots fewer sections. The sections could be much longer or shorter than they traditionally are. It could be anything. It's experimental. But let's break down what the traditional sections are so you know how to work with them and how you might want to deviate from them. Verses are about establishing the mood and telling most of the details of the story. Choruses are usually the bigger, exciting, more memorable parts that kind of sum up the main lyrical and musical themes. And bridges are like a little breath of fresh air, usually offering a new feeling or a perspective, probably breaking away from what's come before, and likely having more tension than a verse before bringing it back home to another chorus. Sometimes it can be helpful to break this down even further, though. You might, for instance, have an intro that's distinct enough from the first verse to be called its own section. You might have a pre-chorus, which is like a specific kind of mini bridge between a verse and a chorus. You might have an instrumental interlude or a solo, or maybe an outro, which is like a section that ends the song that's different from any sections that have come before. In some more modern electronic and pop genres, we're seeing words for structure like build up and drop, but those can also kind of be equated to the traditional words for them. A build up would be maybe like a pre-chorus, a drop could be like a chorus or a bridge. Functionally, you would see those kinds of things sit in very similar places in your song structure. Some more basic forms of song structure would be like A-B, just going back and forth between two different sections, or you could do something like A1, A2, A3, A4, just constantly building and varying on one type of idea. If you're a beginner, I would recommend starting with trying to write something in a format like A-B or A-B-C-B, and if you're more advanced, then I'll leave it up to you if you want to experiment with your structure some more. But let me walk you through how I would continue to develop new sections from the music that I've been working on in the previous lessons. I know that coming up with a new section can feel like blank page syndrome all over again because there are so many possibilities, but the answer is usually contained within the music that you already have. Firstly, think about the story of your song as you're listening to it. When you get to the end of the section you have, do you feel like it needs to go to something with more tension, or should it go to something with more stability? Should it be a bigger, more impactful section, or should it go to something quieter? Think about whether the section you have better serves the ideas we discussed around verses and bridges and choruses. Sometimes I'm working on something that I think is a chorus, but then I come up with something catchier, so I'll make the first part a verse, or an instrumental interlude, or a dancey breakdown. Another good thing to do is to jam some more. I'm not sure if everybody's like this, but I know I have a tendency to start a song with something tactile, like an instrument, and then once things are in the computer, I'm kind of in the computer. A lot of the times it's a really great idea to get away from the mouse and keyboard for a little bit. Maybe you have another device you make music with, or an instrument, or just going to your MIDI keyboard again with some new preset sounds. These tools are a lot more expressive, they let you play a lot more, and they make it easier to find new ideas. Another quick little tip is to turn the screen off, and this applies to a lot of aspects of the music making process, but definitely I find when you're coming up with new sections, this can be a great thing to do. Listen with nothing else distracting you. Even close your eyes maybe, but there's something that happens when we're looking at a screen and we're seeing what we've made and the different parts and what's about to happen next. It kind of takes you out of the mindset that you really do need to be in to be more imaginative and creative as you're making music. Get rid of all that visual information and just let your ears do a little bit of work, a little bit of dreaming, a little bit of coming up with possibilities. So the main concrete technique that I can share with you about developing new sections, and this applies across almost every genre, change something and keep something. It's going to be different for every song that you work on, but it's a great starting point for coming up with new sections. Pick a couple of elements that you'll just keep the same, and then experiment with what you can do differently with the other elements. Maybe all the instruments stay the same, but they start playing very differently. Or maybe you're keeping the same musical material, the same sort of beat and chord progression, but a whole bunch of new instruments come in. So let's go back to that track I was working on, and I'll show you some of these things in practice. So first, I'm just going to listen through this section. All right, I'm feeling like that's not long enough as probably a verse is what it's gonna end up being. So I'm just gonna take the whole thing and duplicate it. So let's see what it's like going from that section back into itself. So I probably don't need this accent is the first thing that I'm thinking, that little impact sound. That can just happen at the start of the section. I also wonder if our filter opening up on this chord stab sound should just go all the way throughout the now twice as long section. Yeah, I think it'll be good if it continues to grow all the way through. I might actually remove stuff from the earlier section. So I'm gonna consolidate the first half of the drums into one clip so I can just go in, turn off all the hi-hats, see what that's like. No, I don't think that's quite it. I think they need to be there, but maybe in the second half we add a shaker. I think there is a shaker sound right there. Cool. That's obviously too straight ahead, so let's shuffle it. Just moving the second instance of that sound over a little bit to give it some shuffle, and now I'm copying both notes. Cool, so now we'll just adjust the velocity of some of those notes so that the shaker is a bit more of a human feel. I'm actually gonna delete all these again. I'll do this with a 4-note pattern. So the offbeats I'll bring down a bit. And the first one I'll bring down a little bit, but not quite as much. Cool. And what if we play with the pitch of that shaker and probably also the volume of it? It feels a bit too forward. Okay, feeling that a bit. Now, I'm noticing it doesn't continue all the way through our section because I had split that clip off to make our drum fill. So let's just make sure it goes to the end. So this isn't exactly a new section yet. It's kind of a development of the first section because I've decided to make it longer. It's a variation. What if we had something like the string chords from the intro come back the second time? Yeah, I don't want that sound, but I like that idea. I'm gonna see if I can find another synth sound that will work for that. I think this could work with some filtering. And I know I don't want the same voicings as those strings, so I'm just gonna figure out new ones to play on the keyboard. I might just draw them in. Yeah, here's what I'm hearing. The chords are going to play on beats 1 and 4, and they're gonna be dead silent in between. I'm gonna automate the volume of the track to go down in between. I need this sound to behave. There's some weird LFO stuff going on. I'm gonna change to a different one. Cool. It's a bit too high. Let's move that an octave down. Cool. Actually, yeah, that shouldn't go silent there because that's where another chord goes. Yep. Okay, you know what? I also don't want all of the tail, all of this reverb. Let's fill out the next chords in this same pattern. automation here. Oh, yeah, these chords. Those are F minor, which is the same as this bar. Okay, so I've added this new layer. It's playing the exact same chord progression as everything else, but with a new rhythm to it and different chord voicings than before. Nothing crazy. It's all the same notes from the chord, but just not the exact same octaves and everything as the strings were doing before. And I've silenced in between where the chords aren't playing just so that it's really tight. There's nothing kind of trailing off over to the other parts of the bar. That one, I want to be higher now that I'm hearing it in context. And I also don't want this chord. Don't want the last ones on either of the phrases. Consolidate that again. And then I was hearing an idea of having these chords kind of filter up. So if we put a filter on there and just automate this opening. Opening and closing. Or maybe opening with more of a curve to it. Yeah, all right, I'm gonna copy that filter curve to all of the chords as well. There's still a bit of something hanging on here. This might not be the right sound. Yeah, I really want a sound that doesn't have any tail in it, and this preset is not working. Yeah, I think that one's better because it's not holding on as much. It's a little loud, turning it down. I'm also gonna add some distortion just to give this a bit of bite. Maybe pre-filter. Turn that down some more. All right, so one thing I'm hearing is that this chord could do a nice little stepping down movement to the next one. And I wonder if there are other spots in this part where we could do a similar kind of thing. The rhythm is actually starting to feel a little too repetitive to me. I think I'm gonna remove additional notes on the tail ends of sub-phrases, I guess we could call them. What if that one moved over for another variation on the very last phrase? We could add some more interest to this with some filter movement, kind of a stuttery filter thing. And let's have it build towards the end as well. We could have filter still do the same move, but increase how much it opens each time. Not sure about that. Maybe we need to copy this type of rhythm over. Yeah. Wow, 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 wow. Why don't we create a variation on that lead line? Da-na-na-na. I like something like that. That's it. And then that note just holds to the end. And I think we want some slightly more extreme modulation. I want to keep this vibrato thing going, getting even faster at the end. Okay, there's still more I'd like to do there, but let's move on because I'd like to keep this big picture. We're gonna create a new section that was sort of like a variation on our first section. I'd call that whole thing now the verse. I'm feeling like I wanna drop things back, create a little pre-chorus, and then go into a chorus idea that I have. Listening to the end of this section, it's pretty big, it's pretty full. I don't think the right move would be going right into something even bigger and fuller. It also ends right at the end on our the root chord of our key. Like right at the end, it resolves. We're hanging out on this G chord for a bar, and then we're climbing and climbing, and then boom, C in like the very last little 16th note slot, I think. So I'm feeling like we need to bring it right back down after this. We'll go to something much more subdued. So let's just get the drums going. So just shaker and hi-hat. I'm going to filter that down. Yeah, we'll just have that filter in all the way through this next section. I don't even want that hi-hat, actually. Let's send a bunch of these sounds to a really long reverb just to create a tail. All right, super long reverb. What will we send there? We'll send all the chord elements and the melody elements to this new reverb right at the end of this phrase. Yeah. Have it kind of swell into that reverb, the lead as well on that last note. And the other chords. Just that last little C minor stab. That's a little too much. It's got to be subtler. I just want some atmosphere from the previous section carrying over to the next one. Maybe we want to keep some snare happening too. Snare on 2 and 4, but filtered. And it's a little loud, so let's turn the velocity down here. Okay, cool. I mean, very basic so far, but headed in the direction of the vibe that I'm feeling. I think that bass has got to carry over. This next section is going to be more subdued, so a bass will fit in nicely. It's going to be lower, darker. I'm actually gonna make a copy of this bass sound because I don't want this part of it to have the attack on the filter. Yeah, just smooth it out. And then potentially I'll put different effects on this sort of build-up pre-chorus bass than on the original one. Just playing around with bass lines. Again, everything I'm doing is just a C minor jam. I mean, it does feel like it wants to be on that C because that last part resolves so quickly to a C. The reverb tails on the C minor chord, so it's like there's a bunch of C minor happening at the start of our next section. We may as well lean into that. I'm just gonna put something down, and then we might change this depending on like the melody ideas that I end up having. I don't know, just C minor stuff. So this section is really feeling like it wants to be spacious. I'm gonna add a bit of reverb to the drums to help with that. Ooh, that's getting sharp. I'm gonna have the resonance of our filter turned down a bit there. Still just dialing in the reverb. That feels like a good amount. All right, you know what? For the bass line, I'm gonna stick with the original chord progression. I'm gonna try that and see what happens because maybe too many things have changed here. Let's use our rule, keep some stuff, change some stuff, and just for now, since I don't have a better idea, stick with the original chord progression and start building on top of that. That last note is probably too low. We won't do the octave below G. We'll just hold that G. I'm already, just as I'm recording that, feeling like that is way better. Like we're already familiar with this emotional arc of that chord progression. So we're just hearing it in a new context now with this new section that's more pulled back. The bass isn't playing the same line as before, but it is supporting that same chord progression. Also noticing that I need to delete this earlier part from the new bass track. So as I'm thinking of what other things could be spacious and kind of dark, my mind goes to bells, some chimey things that I'll probably keep more in the background, you know, maybe turn the treble down on them and put a lot of reverb on them. Oh wait, we already have bell sounds. What if I'm just copying what we had in the intro over. Let's see if this works. I don't think we want our build-up effects on them. Okay, we might be getting somewhere, so I'm gonna turn off, or wait, do we want it to build up? We're making a build up. Wow, you know how before I said the answer is sometimes already in your music? This is like a clear as day example. Let's see what happens here. I like it a lot. It's obviously not perfect though. I think that we do have to change the way that this builds up. I don't want to use the same thing from the intro with the chimes and the loon call and the growing distortion. So I'm going to take off the automation of the distortion effect. I also don't think the delay is working here. So I'm gonna change the delay to a longer delay time. Let's automate that. It used to be down here at 1/8 note. Now let's make it 3. And we also maybe won't have that filter grow, although I don't know, maybe it's helping with our buildup. Or you know what? This whole sound needs to be filtered for this buildup. We'll put the filter pre-effects. Seems like a good place for it to start, and then we'll just go up to maximum by the final note. Probably with a bit of a curve to it. I tend to do this kind of curve when I'm filtering up, just because as you get more into the high end, the effect feels less pronounced. So kind of having more of the sweet spot range being where the filter movement happens, I just find I like that better. Our shaker's a little too filtered too early. What's happening with our drums? I mean, we probably won't go all the way to the end there. We'll probably drop it off and have a break of some kind before the next section. I think that would be necessary just because of how kind of samey this section is so far. It's just like, okay, we're slowly growing. If it just continued like that all the way through, it would be a little too boring, I think. So eventually, that's an idea I'm gonna file away for later. We'll probably have some kind of dropout maybe a fill at the end of this section, but definitely a big change from just this gradual buildup. And clearly in this space here, when the bells aren't playing, we need some other kind of fill. It's just completely dead. I mean, the bass could have some movement to it. Boom, 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 boom. Or actually, should it just climb right up? Because that would be a perfect little line going into the A chord. Maybe a little predictable, I don't know. I'll leave it for now, and then we'll see if we want to change it later. But what else could we add to this fill? I mean, could that bass filter open up over the course of this? That could be nice. Yeah, how about that? Filter cutoff of this bass. It gets actually pretty aggressive. Maybe it doesn't start growing till the second half? Yep, I like that. You know what? I could see that loon call as being something that maybe would be like kind of a hook in the song, like not, you know, the hook, not the most memorable part, but a thing that stands out and is memorable. So maybe we try that in this section again. Yeah. Ooh. Okay, I like that. We won't do the extended build like before in the intro, but I like this. So something that's occurring to me right now to point out is that the creation of this intro, where I just stole the bells from for this new build-up section, it was created in a way that I often create new sections, which is taking a couple of the layers from something that's existing and moving them over to a new place. In this case, I also removed them from where they were originally. I just felt like we had these strings and bells that went together, and I had the drums and bass that went together. I split them off into two sections, even though I came up with them together. So kind of in line with our change something, keep something, the same technique. You can literally just copy and paste the section of the song that you have and then start subtracting things and see if that gives you some new ideas, build on top of that. And then of course you can always change some of the stuff that you had copied over, depending on the new ideas you come up with and how it might fit with them. Yeah, we still need something in that pocket. I don't want to use the chimes again from the intro, but I want to find something else. I want like an icy stab of some kind. Let's use Ethereal Earth, which is another thing from Complete Start, that free package from Native Instruments. I know that this instrument is more ethereal. It's got a lot more of these kind of atmospheric, airy sounds. Some of the presets right off the top say air in them. Oh, okay, that could work. I want even more reverb on it. Let's play with the settings internal to the plugin. Yeah, that's a little too intense still. I'm gonna filter down some of the treble. Ooh, it's kind of nice on this lower note. Maybe we don't need that filter. Yeah, I kind of like that. I'm just playing two C's an octave apart. I feel like if I put some delay on that, have it ring out, it could sound really nice. Let's grab our delay. I want that 3/8 note delay. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit, but it's doing what it needs to do. Could it play some more stuff in this section? Maybe it's like a, there right at the start as like an impact. No, I don't like it there. I like that the transition is kind of smooth right now. That final C minor chord in the previous section is the last little bit of energy, and everything just kind of smoothly melts into the next section. Definitely do not want something prominent on the downbeat, the one of that first bar of that new section. But I do think maybe these icy stabs could come in handy elsewhere. Came up with this thing that I like as well, and because it's got more energy to it than our little 2 C's thing before, I'm gonna move that over to this previous space. A little little bit over. Yeah, that's cool, that's cool. So this is something that you'll probably find as you're creating fills. They've really got to be finessed. They've got to be musical because they can't be expected. You know, if you have this kind of idea that the lead is the call and the fill is the answer, you can't just have this very mechanical back and forth between them. It's got to be setting up expectations, kind of dashing them, kind of meeting them. That's the way that you keep things interesting. And that's also why you'll see stuff like, you know, an instrument coming in for just a little part and then not for the rest of that section because there's another instrument doing something else new and interesting. Obviously, this is different from genre to genre, but I think that you'll find equivalence in all different kinds of music. Like, in something where we don't have the ability to add tons and tons of new sounds and instruments all the time, let's say like a country song, you know, you'll have the lead guitar fill in between vocals, and it'll be very differently expressive each time, you know, different notes, different playing intensities, different phrasing, and that's the way that fills are created in that type of music. In more pop and electronic based genres, because the sound palette can be so much wider, there's almost a pressure to do even more interesting things, to have stuff be even more developed, unpredictable, but it's like a background kind of unpredictable because we're in this world of little details now where it might even be on a subconscious level for some listeners. It's there to keep their ears interested, but it's not drawing so much attention to itself. And funnily enough, these kinds of details can often take way more time than some of the bigger pieces that you might think of. You know, I think I probably spent more time finessing this loon call, coming up with this icy stab thing than I did coming up with the bass line, which, you know, is the anchor in this piece. It's the foundation of this section. It's really carrying things. It's so important, but, you know, I just played it in, came up with it super fast. I'm just like, this is the chord progression. This could be the bass line. When you get into this fill zone, you can really spend a lot of time just crafting the details. Now I have an idea to end this section. I'm going to group all of the instruments and just do a huge filter down on everything. Yeah, it's gonna be on that beat. And we'll have the resonance grow a little bit too. Oh, and that loon call stuff is still going because, of course, it's going to that reverb. We've got to cut that off. I'm just copying and pasting that filter effect to the reverb send channel. I like that a lot. It sets us up for whatever impactful thing will happen next. So let's start on our next section now. What have we been building towards? I'm feeling like it could go into sort of drop territory. We're focusing on an instrumental song here. I do feel like for the way this song sounds, I might normally have gone for a vocal type of song, you know, made a beat that like a Bruno Mars type could sing over, something like that. But since we are confining ourselves to the limitation of instrumental, all within the DAW and free sounds, let's see what we can do with a drop after this build-up. So one thing I'm thinking is I want like a big snare hit right when that thing filters down on all the instruments. I'm actually gonna move the drums out of that group since they don't need to be filtered. That is gonna be a snare hit. We don't need the filter on the drums anymore. I'm gonna automate that to turn off. And I'll grab the snare from before. And we don't need that second shaker. I want to adjust that filter sweep actually. Now that we have the drum in there, I think it could fit a bit better. Could happen faster maybe. And now, let's make a drop. I'm gonna copy over my beat from before. I don't know if I want the clap or the hi-hat. Let's go back to our bass sound. Actually, let's open the filter up on this here because we want it to be a little more aggressive. Gonna have one C note, still starting our chord progression here on C. And again, I don't want that tail, and I'm just gonna mute it. We'll still keep our chords going like this. Same first chord progression, C, F, G, C. Yeah, and I think since we're gonna have a lot more crazy stuff going on because this is a drop, I'm just gonna loop that chord progression rather than doing the remainder of the longer chord progression we were using in the verse, just to keep things simpler. This is a really easy to follow along with chord progression, C, F, G, C. We'll do that, I'm imagining we're gonna need it 4 times. Copy the drums over to match that. Let's put some chord stabs on top of that bass to emphasize those changes. I'm gonna do this with a new sound because it just feels like it's time to use a new sound in this song, not the same chords we've been using over and over again. Yeah, take the reverb and delay off that. Have the filter all the way open. Yeah, that's pretty good. Just tweaking the sound here. Analog Dreams kind of blends 2 different sounds together, so yeah, I like where it's at now. Let's record these chords. I'm gonna play the chords in both hands just to really thicken it up. We'll have 2 octaves of chords. And triggered a wrong note there. Let's clean this up, quantize. A bit loud, I'm turning it down. Works for me, let's loop it. All right, so now I'm gonna start filling in the spaces in between these chords. The kind of drop I'm picturing is the kind where there's a lot of stuff going on, jumping around between lots of different sounds. It's kind of like all fills, or a place where fills and leads almost completely overlap. So I'm gonna show you an approach now, and this is gonna be a really extreme version of it because I'm gonna be generating a lot of sounds, but this is something that can apply with a lot of stages of developing your sections. I'm gonna create a bunch of blank tracks, let's say 10, and I'm gonna force myself to put at least one thing on each of those tracks. So just forcing yourself to do a lot of creation. You know, you're gonna have different sounds on all of these tracks. You're gonna find something that you can do to add to your piece on all of those tracks. It's a pretty intense approach, but it forces you to make a bunch of stuff, and that A, gives you practice, B, gives you a lot of ideas for your song. You just like fire so much stuff out that you can kind of get a more concrete picture of what's gonna work in your track, and hopefully you can be pretty selective about what you're actually gonna keep. I'm keeping things simple with using so much Analog Dreams just because I know the kind of palette of sounds that it offers. Let's choose a sound for our first one. Okay, that's an idea. Not gonna think too hard about it, just gonna put it down. Next track, come up with an idea. And let's move on. Yeah, that's all that's gonna do, one note. Nah, I'm gonna draw that in to be really accurate. I do like it more on the C note, so maybe I'll put it after the next C chord. Hearing another thing here at the beginning, it could be fun. Ba-da-ba. Though I think, actually, that should be a different instrument. Let's move on to our next instrument. Ooh, okay, that's cool. Clean this up a bit. Okay, we need to fill in the space after the G chord. Oh, that's cool, okay. Yep, okay, cleaning that up. More sounds. Could just use this because it's weird. That's all that's gonna do. Next. All right, that idea fits over the C chord, so I'm moving this laser beam over to after the F chord. Sloppy, but we can fix it. And I think I want that beginning part lower so the high note really feels like wow! This note could be timed better. And that last note I'm gonna double up with an octave above and below. Maybe not the high one. Actually, I think I want to switch the positions of what's happening on the C chord. What if that goes over this one and this goes over that one? Yeah, this one feels more final. And then we're back to the loop of chord progression. So I put that one over the last C minor of the progression, and then this is the first C minor of the progression when it loops. 3 more tracks of sounds to fill. This is fun. Let's distort this a bit. I almost feel like I just came up with like the sub we want to use in the drop. Yeah, I'm gonna copy the bass part over to that. And you know, wouldn't have discovered that without doing this create tons of sounds idea. So first of all, consolidating that progression and then putting that up here. Ooh, that's really low. We gotta change the octave. Yeah, this'll work. Okay, I have some ideas of what I want to still do here, but we've got 2 more sounds to add in our challenge. Don't sell yourself short on the challenge. If you decided 10 tracks, 15 tracks, 7 tracks, whatever it is, do all of them. Okay, cool. Let's use both of these sounds on opposite ends of the blend. Maybe here I'll actually remove these chords. Just for that bar, because the idea that I have would kind of take their place. Quantize. And again, yeah, we want to automate that blend. So the first one's there, the last one's there. Other way around. Actually, I think I want some movement to that automation. What if it cuts out on the snare drum? Yeah, and I'll fill in those spaces with some other sounds. You know what? We'll do another automation of the blend. All right, well, I put in our 10 tracks worth of sounds, and here's what we've got. So this is going to take some tweaking now. I just want to finesse all the sounds, like muting stuff where it needs to cut out, There were a couple sounds like this one where I wanted to filter just to accentuate what it's already doing. What would this sound like? Distortion after that. Actually, maybe all the notes should be a little shorter just so the attack of each of them really stands out. I'm also gonna add some automation to the volume just to make the initial transient of the sound really pop. Yeah, now I'll push the volume of the whole track up. Okay, so that's one sound finesse. What else can I do? There's some volumes that need adjusting. All right, I'm feeling one little element to keep building things is to bring those hi-hats back partway through the drop. Maybe just an offbeat hi-hat. Let's copy and paste that. Took a one-day break, now we're back at it. So I'm just gonna keep on adding sounds to this track. I'm gonna switch it up and start using Helm now, just for some variety. So I'm just gonna listen through and fill in the pockets of this drop where there currently isn't any sound. It occurred to me that we should talk about your CPU load because you're seeing me load in tons and tons of plugins here. If you don't have a fast enough computer, there's gonna be a limit that you hit of how many plugins you can run. There's a couple workarounds for that. You can print what you've done to audio so that your computer's not taxed with all the resources of using the instruments, but just has to play back this final audio file. Some DAWs like Ableton offer an option that might be called freeze or something like that, where it actually renders the audio right inside the program. If you don't have that, you can always solo an instrument track, render that out, and then bring that audio file in to replace the MIDI. So let's get back to this drop. Right away, we've got a sound to fill there. Okay, I mean, that's a pretty cool sound. And I'm gonna automate that track to turn on and off on maybe on some kind of rhythm. Could even be more intense than that. And one more bit of movement towards the end here. Yeah, I wanted to change sounds right here. Maybe this is where we introduce another helm. So yeah, that'll turn off there. New sound. Let's browse some more. Yup, let's just like mess with this sound a bit. Yeah, let's put that there. I don't want the reverb on this sound. Automate this formant parameter. Let's experiment with the shape of it. I mean, it's so fast. I think it needs to be doubled up with our sub sound. Is that lined up right? Yeah. Maybe an octave there. Ba-bo. There's some delay or reverb on this sound too that I don't want. Let's clean this up a bit. And we'll add a little bit of distortion to make that bite. Actually, that default preset kind of sounds fine on it. Yeah, cool. Maybe timing-wise, we want this to be tighter. Let's move stuff closer to those beats. Doesn't have to be perfect. This could still feel a little human, but I think it could be closer. And now I want to adjust this sound. So yeah, I'm hopping back and forth right now between a little bit of tweaking each of these sounds and adjusting the volumes, really just focusing on getting this first bar sounding good. And I think I'm there, so now I'm gonna move on to the second bar. Got some space to fill in there. I'm remembering there's a sound. That one. I'm gonna bring that in earlier here and maybe try and find a way to play with it so that it's varied. Make it longer. So maybe that's good there. We'll vary the second one, so the second one is more interesting. Maybe a filter sweep. Yeah, let's have it start high so that you can hear it, but then kind of dip right down and swell back up. Distortion on the second time around too. Automate both of these effects to only be on this one time. Distortion after the filter. It's not the right distortion. That's cooler. Gotta bring the volume down. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So they're different sounding now. Still a bit loud. And that curve could be a little different just to let more sound through at the beginning. All right, back to this second bar. Now here's where I'm thinking it would be great to get away from some synth sounds. Let's go back to free sound and get some vocal samples. Let's go with a classic woo. Someone says woo. It's a little lackluster. They're not actually excited. Oh. There's a lot in there. Let's grab that. Pop it in on a track here. I'm gonna name this One Shots and probably put a bunch of different things in there throughout. Which piece of this do we want to use? I'm gonna grab this yeah. And I'm gonna grab that high woo. And that yeah. And that one. And someone's going gobble gobble. Okay, so we actually got a bunch of vocal chops out of that one sample that I'm gonna stick in different places in this drop. A woo right there. I'm gonna move these things out of the way while I'm working on this bar. We need to make that a bit more epic though. Let's get some reverb on there. I'm gonna cut this chord in half just to be a little bit more unexpected. Gonna have to mute that bass too. And I wanna put a yeah in there. Maybe we turn the reverb off. Turn the reverb off on that bar. And then a yeah there. Ooh. That's fun. Even just where I randomly drop these chops, they sound kind of cool. Maybe I'll put them where there's some space. And they need to be timed up properly, but... somewhere with more space, because I don't want that to overlap with what the synth is playing there. Could be here. That's good. What if we stutter this? Maybe not there, but that's a fun effect for somewhere else. Ooh, and I'm hearing like a little walking bass line down here. Boop, 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 boop. We do that. Boop, boop, boop. It's just G walking down to a C in C minor, just right down the scale. G, F, E flat, D, C. And we'll want to automate this to be on for each of those notes. And also have the sub doing it. Maybe this first note moves over in the rhythm? Or do we just move this whoop whoop? Here, we'll do another chord shorten over here. Yeah, and I'll do a whole bunch of fills with vocals in that part. We'll come back to that. Getting ahead of ourselves. I want something after this yeah. It just feels like it needs a little bit more of a punch right there. Actually, I do want these little woot-woos back for a little detail here. That's fun. There's a lot of different rhythmic interplay happening between the parts. I'm gonna pitch down that last yeah. Fade it out. Let's remove this kick drum here for this last bar of this phrase. And this could use a little more movement to it maybe. Bandpass filter? Yeah, actually, you know what's interesting? I'm gonna do this in parallel. I'm gonna have this bandpass filter on ascend so that we still have the original signal, but we're just augmenting it with this bandpass sound. And we're not gonna send it on that last note. I'll do something else special on that note that I'll figure out in a second. Yeah, I like that. So we have a phrase that's descending in pitch, but I'm sweeping the bandpass filter up. So it's an interesting kind of movement because most of the frequencies of the actual sound are going down, but we're emphasizing higher and higher ones as the phrase goes on. This needs to be kind of vibrato-y, I think. And I think I want to layer it up with another synth, either playing the same note or maybe turning it into a chord. I mean, maybe I just make this thing play the chord. I still want that E flat to be the note that stands out though. So maybe the rest of the chord is below these two high E flats. All right, yeah, let's do some vibrato. Let's go to our MIDI pitch bend and draw in a little wobble. We'll have it start close to the beginning. I like to have it both speed up and grow in amplitude as it goes. So let's just do one rough drawing through, see what it sounds like. Yep, that works. Even higher E flat in there maybe? I want to try something. Let's shorten this chord a little. I just want this riff to have another additional note before it leading into it. Oh, that's what I played originally anyway. I got tendencies. That needs to be longer. I think that chord needs to be even shorter. And we need another little vocal accent filling that space. Let's go back to free sound. What can we... Exclamation. Okay, that's gonna be good for a drop. That's fun too. I'm downloading some funny sounds. OMG. Bring them into our one-shots track. That is great for like a pre-drop thing. What's this? That's just a funny one. Also a funny one. Another funny one. I love this OMG. OMG. What if we chop the tail end of this? And this is where we were. Nah, that's not really doing it for me. I think we just want another yeah. I really love this yeah. I'm gonna turn it up a bit. Just extended it ever so slightly and faded it out so that it kind of trails a little bit over into the next beat. Maybe that should happen every time in that spot. Gotta give our drop a little bit of predictability, maybe. These chords get deleted there, get shortened. But it needs that longer chord for the drop. Oh, gotta make the first one the same volume. Yeah, so maybe this continues to happen throughout the drop in that position. Okay, I like that. It's a little motif. Let's see what we can do about these other fun sounds. I want to work in the OMG somehow. OMG. Feels like the OMG should go here as like the last part of this phrase. So I'm gonna take the cool thing we did here and move it over to the very end of our drop where hopefully there's not too much going on. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another thing that I decided as I was listening to this. I think the drop only needs to be half as long as I currently have it. Just chop that down. And then those vocal samples don't need to overlap with the synth that we just moved, so let's find another spot for them. That's fine for now. Let's look at this OMG. Can you tell I'm jumping all over the place right now? This is kind of how I approach drops. It's just like a puzzle to put together. You find all these different elements, you make a few sounds, you establish a palette, and then you figure out how it can flow. OMG. It's too bad about the quality of this. OMG. I think we want to get rid of these snares. If we pitch shift this up though, I wonder if the quality will appear to improve. When you're dealing with lower quality audio, it's often missing some low end and some high end. In this case, the low end doesn't matter because it's a vocal, so it's gonna be mostly high end audio. So by pitching it up, we start to fill in some of the frequency spectrum that was missing due to it being a low quality audio file. I mean, it's not that much of an improvement, but I think it's significant enough. I'll find the rhythm for this and then we'll try some other effects on it to maybe be able to tame that audio a bit more. I want it to be like, OMG. Yeah, that's fine for now. I'm gonna clean that up once we get to the mixing stage, but for the sake of these lessons, trying to keep things more linear. I wanna EQ this right now, but we will go over EQ in the mixing lesson. Need a little bit of filler in this bar. It's just too empty. Let's pull up another helm and see what we can make. This metal perk preset is fun. I'm just playing it at a few different octaves. Take off the reverb. Yeah, let's just sequence a bunch of notes there. Maybe going from top to bottom. Yeah, with one more as kind of like the kick drum on the OMG. And I want a little bit of swell into that, which I might do on the chord synth. Might do a little filter sweep just to have some more motion bringing us into our break. So automate the filter to turn on just for that chord. We'll sweep it up. Maybe it still needs that snare. And maybe it needs that kick. Yeah, putting the original kick back in and taking out that last helm note. Should there be a little echo on the G? Should we send that to the reverb and see what happens? Can't hurt to try. Yeah, I like what that does. It makes it more epic, but I also want it to cut out right when the beat comes back in again. Gonna automate that reverb off. Because it just makes things cleaner, it makes things feel a little bit harder rather than having some reverb hanging out where it's a little more floaty and airy. Or maybe we'll have it cut out on that snare. Yeah, because I think once we get to this part, you want it really clean. You want that silence, that small little bit of silence in between each of these notes. Let's get some context. Let's listen to this whole drop before we keep on working on the end of it. Just realized we didn't copy our bandpass automation over. That should now be happening here. So yeah, there are still some blank spaces to fill, but that's no problem. So I was thinking that this bar that we were just working on It's still a bit blank here. I think it just needs a little offbeat yeah action. Little too many yeahs overall in that section now, though. Yeah, I think this one needs to go, be replaced by something else. Where were our other fun vocals? These are all really loud. I'm turning them down. Maybe just that? Fade it out. This could go over. Or is it here? Yeah. So that yeah can go somewhere else. I mean, I think we've used it before, but it's a good yeah. And I'll put this weird rising vocal here. Pitched up. Yep. So where's that yeah gonna go? It's a lot of vocal exclamations all in one spot, but it's working, I think. This scream could maybe go on the last chord. Yeah, I want to hear the end of it. Just pitch shift it up a bit to shorten it. Reverb? Yeah, not that much of it, but reverb, yeah. And that'll carry over into our next section. Cool. I think there might be a couple spots that we still need to add some stuff, but let's see. There's not enough vocals in some areas. Now it's become a very vocal heavy drop. It's kind of pretty regular chops of vocals in there, so I don't want any sections to be totally devoid of them. First one could go there. Maybe we don't need this one. We can add some kind of vocal chop, doubling that bass thing. Where was like the good low yeah? Oh wait, it's already on top of there. We could just do a stutter into that. Yeah, I want to move it over a little bit. And that volume could go up on this bass sound. And is this too blank? That first woo with the reverb could come back. Here we have a yeah woo, yeah woo. The scream, I forgot about the scream. Oh, what are we gonna do about this section now? Maybe it's just a variation on the chord. What if the chord jumps up an octave? It's a nice variation. All right, I'm thinking it's too predictable to just have a vocal every offbeat here. So I'm gonna take off that woo, still wanna find a home for it. Maybe it's here instead of that yeah that we've already used. No, it's this one. Yeah, okay, I like that. And then we just need something there. Oh, let's grab our chord from the end. Just a little extra chord slice here. But what chord are we on? So we're on F. Maybe we could do our bandpass trick on this again. Automate that bandpass filter. It's a little too strong though. I'm gonna reduce how much we're sending to that track. Oh yeah, and I got ahead of myself. I didn't want that predictable 4 offbeat vocal thing here. So I wanted to double up this little melody with something else. Where else can we put this? I want like a lower synth. Maybe that one that had the cool stutter. Whoa. Nice and low. All right, yes, I think our drop is done. So now we're gonna get into song structure, and I think with this song, I'm able to just copy and paste. I'm gonna select my whole arrangement and just duplicate it. And I think that this drop is gonna flow nicely into that verse that we had. Yeah, that'll work. So now we gotta decide how we wanna structure this song. We've got the cool string intro. Going into this verse. Going into this build-up. then it's drop time. Going into another verse. So right now, just repeating that whole structure again. I do think that after the drop, maybe we should lose the drums in the next verse, because we've been hearing them for a while and we're coming from a big section going to a smaller section. So let's help emphasize the smallness of that section. We could have the drums come right back in after a short break. That's actually a somewhat common trick, is the first bar of verse 2 in a song will often pull the drums and maybe some other elements. So it's like you get that feeling of new section coming down from the big chorus, but then you can bring some energy back in. So yeah, maybe I'll take the bass out too until that snare. And I'll move this impact over to where that snare is too. Might want to change what that impact sounds like. Yeah, but there's too much reverb on that now. I'm going to reduce the dry wet and probably the decay time. Actually, decay time's fine. I'm just gonna make it a lot less wet. And one thing I'm thinking to help the buildup of the verse, maybe we take the claps out for the first half. And how do they sound going from that to a second half with claps? Yeah, it's a small detail, but I think it helps. I'm gonna do that in the first iteration of the verse as well. No claps in the first half. Helps to build it a little bit. And actually, here's another structural thing that's fairly common. Verse 2 is often half as long as verse 1. Verse 1, you have a lot to establish. You want people to get familiar with the melody. Verse 2, it's like, yeah, we have to do this again, but we kind of know you just want to get back to the chorus as soon as possible. You know, it's part of shaping the journey. You get just enough of the less exciting stuff to just break up the more exciting stuff that most people enjoy more. The way to do this, I think, is to just start on the second half of the verse and take stuff away. So what I'm gonna do is move our impact to the spot where it needs to be in the second verse, and then we'll delete this whole first verse section. Ableton has a delete time command that lets me just zip something right out of existence. In another DAW, you might have to delete the stuff, then move everything after over. All right, so now what we need to do is decide what we're gonna remove for that little first bar dropout of verse 2. I think we're gonna take away this filtery chord synth. We're gonna take away that bass. We're removing the drums until beat 4 where this clap happens. And now that we are just using one repeat of the verse, I am gonna keep the clap in the whole time for verse 2. Let's see how this flows now. I think that's good. I might just take away one of these chord stab synths until everything else comes in. Until the second bar. And it might be fun to put another woo in here. I don't know if this track is getting too covered in woos. If I come back after a break and listen to this with a fresh set of ears and I'm just like, oh, we are just covered in woos. Take the reverb woo. Nah, let's keep the verse woo free. Okay, so I think we should vary that lead that comes in. We'll go higher because we're further along in the song. Higher notes, more energy. We are losing some of that high end here. All right, that's something I'll fix in mixing. that's cool. This pre-chorus works. And then we go to another drop and probably end on the drop. Now I know I just talked about shortening the verse to get back to the chorus sooner, but I have an idea right now where I'm gonna extend that pre-chorus build-up because I feel like our string intro here could slot in nicely here after this build-up because they're kind of the same part. I mean, the build-up is... The intro is like... a different version of that. So I'm gonna move the drop over by the amount of space that this intro takes up. I'm going to copy it in. For some reason it copies with a time signature change, which we don't need. So now I just gotta finesse this to make it work with the build-up part that came before. Because we have two of these loons. Gonna get rid of the first one. Let's see how this flows. Yeah, so it's got to build up more gradually. We're going to remove the big snare drum here. We're going to remove that, like, filter down. I'm going to take this cymbal impact from before. Rather than having it start on that section, I'm going to put it on the last snare of the previous section. See, what I'm searching for right now is something from this build-up to swell over into the strings. Actually, that bell is too filtered in this intro. Copy that to the first one. I think the bass opens up too much. Just be a slight filter. That's a little nicer, that's a little tamer. Maybe the bass just needs to do what the strings are doing. Here's an idea. We could take that same walk down we did earlier. Yeah, and I'm still just looking for some kind of swelling sound. Let's just go to free sound and get some wind. This is pretty. So is that. I'm gonna download both of those and try them out. Alright, I think we need the noisier one. There's a good swell there, so I'm gonna have the volume on that come in and out right over the transition between these two sections. And we're going to send it to our reverb. Nice, okay, so I'm fading this wind out very slowly over the top of the string section, and it actually works perfectly with the wind chimes that we already had in there. Wow, this is all coming together. I think I want it to fade in even earlier. Like, I really want it to just creep in, you don't even notice it, and it really will help with this transition, I think. Maybe the whole way through that section it starts creeping in. Another wind chime right off the top. Some kind of accent. Maybe it's this icy stab? Needs to be louder. Actually, we could do a little melody leading into that. That's what I want. Oh, I just echoed the melody that was already there. This lead part became this icy stab part. I thought I was coming up with a new idea and I was just literally repeating what I had just heard. Repeats are good though. Echoes are a very musical thing to do. What else can we do to ease this transition? I think we need the bell tree earlier. I'm just really feeling that high twinkly sound. Put it right here, and we'll come up with a different fill for that part. We'll have the bell tree fade in. And we definitely have to build that more to get into our drop. I mean, it could be as simple as a little drum fill. Let's try that out. Snare drum. And maybe with our fun little, that thing could be like a tom fill. It's not great right now, but I think I can make it work. I'm gonna have the loon cut out on the snare hit. I'm gonna send the snare hit to a reverb. I think an extra bar in the build-up feels like the right timing. But we still got a lot of work to do. So the stuff that was building up needs to be stretched out. I gotta change all my automations. The vibe on this snare isn't quite right. I think it's too much reverb and I want a bit more high end, so I'm gonna add that clap back in just for this hit. And I don't want that reverb to hold over into the drop. Remember what I was saying before about stuff being really clean and tight? I'm just gonna have a huge amount of reverb on the snare hit, and then the reverb will cut out on the first beat of the drop. So let's add another reverb send, because I also want the quality of the reverb to be slightly different. I was sending it to this reverb that I've been using for a lot of different stuff, and definitely feel like we could use a new one. So let's take that automation off. Now send it to our new reverb. What kind of settings do we want? Good amount of high end, not a lot of low end. And of course, we're gonna automate that to cut off right when the drop starts. Yeah. And I also want an impact on that drop, which is gonna cut out on the snare. Let's go back again to see if we can make use of that symbol that we used somewhere. Where is it? This project is getting so big. Impact. It's this guy. And again, automating that off after a beat. Yeah. I do think maybe that could be a bit louder. Maybe we don't need these toms now. Yeah, I think that's cleaner. So we have a big snare impact as kind of a lead into the drop, and when the drop hits, I put this sort of cymbal sound on it. But that cuts out after one beat so that everything is sounding super tight. This is something that I really like to do, actually. I remember when I discovered it as like a 20-year-old music nerd messing around with production, and I had come from playing live drums, and with live drums, that function is served by a crash cymbal. You finish your fill and you go psh, crash cymbal on the start of a new section. Cutting that crash cymbal off on the very next snare hit creates more impact somehow than letting it ring out. I don't know what it is. It's like a controlled explosion. Maybe when you don't hear the decaying part of the cymbal, you don't have that association with something that's, fading away. It sounds a little weaker. I don't know, but it's a great trick. Huge impact, immediately take it away. We still got to work on this build up though, because it's going from one of the most quiet parts of the song to the drop, to the biggest part. So it's got to build up more to really give you that satisfaction of release once we get to the drop. So a simple thing we could do is a riser. I'm going to add in another helm. Going to increase the pitch bend range to 24 semitones, which is the maximum there. And we're going to draw one long MIDI note for this whole second half of the build-up. Doesn't even really matter what note we start on. We might adjust it later, but what we're gonna do is adjust the pitch bend going from 0 to maximum across that note. How high does it go? That's fine. So this is the default sound in Helm that I'm just playing one note on, doing a pitch rise. I'm turning it down quite far so it's in the background. We're gonna add a bunch of reverb and delay to it just to create a basic riser. Maybe I'll automate the cutoff to get a bit more of a build to it. And actually it goes too far. We gotta stop it before that snare drum. So let's adjust all of our automation envelopes to reflect that. Yep. And actually I could turn it up a bit. So as far as the mood and the frequency spectrum being filled up, I feel like our buildup is really close. Right now it's just missing a rhythmic element. I think some drums have to come back and do some kind of snare buildup roll thing. Can't forget to do all the typical obvious stuff. Let's make a little clap buildup. Or maybe that snare drum from this kit? Wasn't the one we were using, but it's got a nice snap to it. Maybe more like this rhythm. I think I gotta go backwards with this roll to see where we want to end up. So how fast do we want the rolls at the end? Let's do triplets next. That's a little too extreme. Maybe putting some rhythm in. Yeah, I think that could be okay. Now I'm just gonna go in and adjust the velocities so that the strong snare beats are more accented. So all the down beats will boost up. Then we gotta do the in-between ones. I think I am gonna start this drum fill earlier. And I'm gonna change the accents here actually, because I wanna keep that general pattern going. So the accents here are the same as the drum pattern here. And to help with this build, I am going to filter the snare drums in. Maybe we get some of our vocals into this build-up. Yeah, just chopping up one yeah into a faster and faster rhythm. Let's filter that as well. Oh, and we should probably put our scream at the end there. So, dubstep. Okay, cool. Now what we're gonna do is vary this second drop, and actually I wanna make a copy of the whole drop because we're gonna repeat it twice because it feels like it needs it. And we just heard this yeah, so that's the first thing I'm gonna change. We could change this rhythm up. Maybe expand that note, move that one. Actually move this whole thing. Okay, I'm gonna keep most of the first half the same and then do some more variation here. Yeah, like that yeah could be a different syllable that we stutter. So I'll swap it for something. We could change the bass notes in this part. Ba 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 ba. Maybe take away the filtering we had. I'm gonna add a swell to the end note here. What else can we change up? What if that, instead of just going up an octave like this, was a more like sweepy thing, was a more like arpeggiated thing? You could have the chord kind of go up in inversions. So take the bottom note and put it on top. Take the bottom note, put it on top. Yeah, this could work, and actually, that might be too fast. Let's spread these out. Yeah, 2 of those in a row. I feel like we want to stutter the bass to match that rhythm, so maybe just have this play those fast notes. Nope. That's muddy. Or should the second one go up higher? That's cool. This is a little naked. I'm gonna put a tiny baby riser in there. Why not? Get a note in there. Do a pitch bend. Higher. Yeah, that's cool. But maybe without the reverb and delay. Yeah, so reverb off, but delay maybe on until the next bar. Oh, and we definitely need the sub here. Where is that going? Yeah. And let's make the kicks line up with that. We could just have 1 bar of drum variation. I'm gonna take the scream away here because I know we're gonna end on that when this drop repeats. So what can we do to vary this fill? Let's just change up this whole line. What could it play instead? Ba 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 ba. that's not spaced right. Yeah, let's double this with an octave. Another octave? Yeah, this woo part feels a bit empty now. Let's bring back 2 of those bass note stabs. Where were they? Those guys. Actually, I kind of like what those 2 random notes that I copied do here. Do-da-do. They want to resolve there. Do. So, this note? Or maybe this? Maybe that note. I'm just trying to keep the timbres switching up, you know? That's how this type of music thrives. Constantly different timbres. Maybe 2 sub notes. Sub octave there. Cool. Gotta keep the hi-hat going in the repeat of the drop. Oh, we gotta do the sub that's missing from the other parts. And that is also missing from our first drop. Gotta change all this. Okay, we're continuing to vary the last drop. So this has all got to start changing a lot more. Just gonna delete this stuff. That keyboard line's gotta be something else. Let's try that. Da, da, da. Move all these over. Let's vibrato that second note. Ooh, a good vibrato will never get old to me. All right, gotta change up that, like, brassy sounding synth. What's this gonna be? Let's use our bandpass trick again. Which send was our bandpass? This guy. Send a little bit of this over to that while we do a sweep. I wonder if there's one other timbral parameter we can shift with this. What if we put it through a distortion? Just pop that on for this one line and adjust the amount of drive. Yeah, it's pretty cool with the dry wet going up and down. Yeah. Okay, can we change up that OMG? Can we just get another person saying OMG? Will I be lucky enough to find that on Freesound?
Oh my god!
Yeah, that would be real Skrillex.
Oh my god.
Would that be good there? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Gonna play with people's expectations if they've been catching where the OMG goes every drop.
Oh my god.
It makes me laugh every time. It's gotta go in.
Oh my god.
Just gotta time it up. The god is a little late. Put it in like that. It cuts off at the next bar.
Oh my god.
I love it. It's a bit loud. Gonna turn that clip down.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I am really into this. Okay, let's keep making variations. I wanted to change this line. That's been the exact same every time. I wanna have more notes, make it busier. Yeah, I'm hearing this. So this is gonna be the same note every other beat. And this is gonna walk down. Though I think it should just be a different sound entirely. A few octaves of that. And we want the final note too. Resolving to, yeah.
Oh my god.
Could this work on our original chord synth? Maybe that doubled with the more aggressive one?
Oh my god.
We want another impact. Where'd that cymbal go? Impact. Do we want one here? No.
Oh my.
We want one after oh my god though.
Oh my god.
Okay, how are we gonna switch this up? That line's gotta change. Ba 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 ba. Wow. Ba 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 bow. Where's this go here? Actually, I think we get rid of that stutter part. We just hold. Ba ba da ba 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 ba. We'll swell that note back up. We'll get rid of the yes. Get rid of the yes maybe at the end. Oh, interesting. What if we move this chord here now? Yeah. It still wants to have just a little impact there. Maybe a woo. We'll steal a woo from somewhere else. Pitch shift that up a bunch. That's cool. All right, we've heard this laser a bunch. I'm taking it out. Let's replace it with a riser. Where's our riser? But we'll go down this time. Boo! And this time the delay is gonna be off. Maybe take away the hi-hat for that beat too. Yeah, a little drum break. Is that too soon after this?
Oh my god.
Maybe, yeah. We gotta switch up this thing, this grunt section. Just like cut them up in a couple different rhythmic stutters. What if this chord were different now? It's going from the F to the G, a 4 to a 5. We could like sharpen those Fs. Let's put this back on our other chord synth. And resolve it. Fill that chord out a bit more. Do we want it on that whole rhythm? Maybe. This might be too high considering the rest of the chords in this part are lower. Or we go octave and octave down. And here's an easy switch up. Instead of this going down, we'll go up. Oh, that sounds like the beginning of a surf song. Switching it back, switching it back. Just gonna add some extra little synth notes in this part. Actually, it feels like it should end earlier. Just like, we'll lose that. Yeah, we'll just go boom, spooka, end on the scream right there. Cause we don't need to hang out on the C for that whole time. C is the resolution, C is where we're aiming for, and we got there, so we'll end there. Lose this weird scream, and put in the blood-curdling scream. Delete everything else that comes after that. Okay, I'm calling it there. This has been an intense day, but let's look at the structure we have. We have intro, verse 1, build up pre-chorus, let's say, number 1, drop number 1, drop or chorus, and then verse 2, half as long, build up 2, pre-chorus 2, twice as long as the previous one, and then the final drop is twice as long as the previous drop. And the intro section definitely overlaps with the build-up section because harmonically and melodically doing a lot of same things. Then, of course, in the second build-up, I combined the intro with the build-up. So I would call those the same part. And if we're looking at our structure from those sort of letter terms, it looks like it's an A, B, A, C, B, A, C. It's not exactly a typical song structure, but it's definitely not too crazy of a deviation. We've got verses, choruses, and whatever you want to call the parts in between the verses and the choruses. A bridge, a build-up, a pre-chorus. We've got structure. For me, there's one final step in the process before we get into mixing and mastering now, and that is another pass of fills. I'm gonna come back after a break, listen through with fresh ears, and put in all the extra ear candy that I think will just elevate this song to that magical level. Okay, I'm back after another break. I really want to have fresh ears for this final stage before mixing. This is where I do one final pass on fills. Just listening through the whole track, making note of any spot where it could just be a little bit more lively, trying to notice when interest might be dropping off. This is hopefully where we're making our final decisions as far as creative details before we get into the more technical process of mixing. So I'm gonna listen through the song while making notes, and if I do this away from my computer, you know, if I have a bounce of the track and I'm listening in the car or somewhere on a Bluetooth speaker in my house or something, I might make the notes on my phone, sometimes with pen and paper. In today's case, I'm at the computer. I'm actually gonna make notes right in Ableton because they let you put little markers in the timeline. So I'm gonna put notes right on the parts of my song where I need to address some details. Okay, I need a better build going into that beat for the first time. I think maybe I'll use that wind sound again from the bridge. Okay, the verse is feeling slightly naked for me at certain points. I want to add tiny little bit of detail here. I think a slightly better impact. And I think I'm going to use some of those cut up vocals from the drop because the vocals are only in the drops right now. Maybe a little bit of that flavor in the verse will be good. So I'm thinking a vocal impact here and then some fills in between our other fills. Right now I have a fill kind of at the end of every phrase, and I want to do one halfway through every phrase as well, which I'm going to do with vocals. So vocal fills at midway points, we'll call that. Let's keep listening. So a vocal fill there. That fill just feels slightly weak to me. We'll figure out what we'll do with that later. Another vocal fill there. Midpoint vocal fill. And again, another slightly better fill or a swell for that transition to feel more powerful. Okay, so this section for me, I'm iffy about. I think this section needs to build more before going into that drop, so I might pull some of that drum fill vocal chop stuff that we did in the second repeat of it, put that in the first iteration. Do we want the cymbal impact there? Yeah, I think I might want to audition the same thing we did with the second drop, which is having the big clap reverb and the cymbal impact for the first beat. This sound I'm not entirely happy with. Might double that. We want to swell at the end of this section 2, just to make that transition even more compelling. Overall, pretty happy with the drop though, and considering this is all free sounds, like, all right. In that section, I'm just going to put in the same vocal fills from the first verse. Want a variation on the icy stabs. I don't want them to be the exact same thing as the first bridge or pre-chorus or whatever we're calling this section. And I had another thought that was really small in the back of my mind the first time I listened to this section, but it's becoming apparent again as I'm listening to the second appearance of this in the song. I want some kind of background texture for this whole section. Just like, I don't know, vinyl crackle or something to keep it from feeling too naked, even though it is meant to be kind of a naked section. You know, it's the quietest part of the song. There's the least amount of stuff going on. It is meant to be chill, but it just feels slightly too empty. Definitely need to fill there. The snare drum feels like it comes out of nowhere, so something to make you anticipate that. Not entirely sold on this snare sound. Might layer up some other claps or snares there. Just want to improve that build-up because it's just a little flat for me. Again, want to accent this sound a little bit more. We use this sound twice in a row. And for this kind of music, I just want to switch it up even more often. We need another kind of swell or something to bring the energy a little bit more forward leading into the next downbeat. Oh, and there's a spot where I just forgot to put something, so put stuff here. I don't like how much we're using that sound, and it's also kind of getting in the way of the woo, so I'm just gonna change that right now. Different texture. Maybe we could hocket this. Hocket meaning the same line jumps back and forth between different instruments. Yeah, I mean, that's too loud now. Yeah, that's just more interesting to play that line across 3 different instruments, and we'll figure out the mixing when we're mixing.
Oh my god.
Do we need the vocals there? Yeah, they add enough. Okay.
Oh my god.
That's a little too sparse. Vocal stutter here. Okay, I feel like that doesn't end on the right beat. I want it to be like ba 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 boom psh. Okay, so I'll change that right away since we're at the end of the song now. Move the scream over. What other sounds? Need something. Right there. Maybe this is the one. Maybe it should just move over. No, we want like a slightly more impactful, maybe a lower voice. Yeah, a little chop of that. My favorite, yeah. Where is it going? Here. Maybe a couple more earlier. Pitch shift those up. All right, so now I basically have a list for myself of all the things that I need to do to make this song finished before we go to the mixing stage. These final details do take some time, and they're not necessarily the thing that your listener is gonna pay the most attention to, but they are the thing that elevates a song to the next level. Like, hopefully you've been happy with the stuff that you've come up with as far as the bigger picture, you know, your sections, your instrument parts, but all these little details are what will really make your track come alive. So now let's just go through and address everything that I told myself to do. We want that wind swell. Grab some of this wind. Where do we want to put it? It's too tame, but I think I can make it work. So we're gonna put some distortion on it to really bring out some higher harmonics and make it harsher. Then we're gonna filter it and sweep that filter. So we only want the distortion on for this little part we're working on here, not the whole wind track. Start the fade up here. Let's get our filter on. Again, it's only active for this instance of the wind. We'll filter it up. Some resonance, increasing as we go. Okay, that'll work. The shape's just not quite right. It needs to fade up sooner, or it needs to start from higher and have more resonance earlier. Maybe the whole rise needs to start earlier. I want you to be kind of background aware of it so that it's not coming completely out of nowhere. It's got to swell in for longer. Yeah, it goes too high here. It's a little too loud at the end and not loud enough at the beginning. So let's change this volume fade. And we'll have the volume swell more towards the end. I like that. I might also add our riser in. So we'll make a note, the length of the riser we want, create our pitch bend. All right, I think that note is too low. It's also a bit dull. Probably have some filter settings on here that I forgot about. Yeah, so we're gonna open the cutoff on Helm as we did with the other big riser over here. And then do I want this riser to cut off the way the other build-up stuff did? Yeah, that's cleaner. Okay, I like where this intro is at now. Get rid of that note. The feeling of deleting notes is so good. Moving on, we want a vocal impact here. And what I mean by that is just like a syllable of a vocal, like with some echo on it that will just add a little more excitement at the start of that section. So let's find a good little yelp. That one will do. It is so dry. Gonna throw a delay on it. Automate the delay to be on only during this section. And let's adjust the settings to what we like. It'll be filtered a bit. I do like the dotted 16th note thing, the 3/16 note length for the delay. You want the reverb on it? Yeah, it's nice with the reverb on it. Although actually, I'm going to put this on a new track because we're gonna put some other vocals in here for our vocal fills at the midway points note, doubling our vocal track. And I'm gonna delete the one we just did off of that track and delete all the other ones off of the other track because that delay I wanna keep going a little bit. You'll probably still hear it a little bit while the drier vocals come in for our fills. So let's bring some of our chops over again here. What do we want to use? I want the more chill ones, not the really high energy ones. So I'm just pulling a bunch aside to a random part of the project. Well, let's see if we can make it work with these. Oh, and we don't want the reverb active during any of these. I want the first beat to be that one. Yeah, I'm hearing a rhythm that would be like ba ba da ba ba. Maybe we end with the Yeah, and we just need to shuffle these a little bit. All right, and these are a little too forward. They were good in the drop, but I want to filter them a little bit for the purposes of being more in the background in the verse. We already have a filter on that track, but I'm just gonna put a new one on because I think I want it to be a bandpass. Yep, that's good, and we just need to boost the volume now because we've taken away so many frequencies. And let's put a different reverb on it just to create a slightly different sense of space. This is a background element, so we do want it to be not completely dry. We want some sense of distance, so we'll use a reverb. Probably a pretty dark reverb. You know what? This delay should be kind of a motif. I think that needs to be a send. We'll move that to the send. Dry wet to 100, delete the automation of it turning on and off, and then send this one there. Because then I also want to send that last vocalization there. And as a starting point for the next fills, let's just bring these vocalizations back all the way through here, and maybe we'll keep some of them because some familiarity is good. All right, yeah, I like what that's doing, but I'm gonna create variations for the second and fourth ones. This guy? It's too loud, but yeah. And then another fill. What are we gonna do with this one? Maybe it could still end with the but we gotta switch up what's before that. Maybe we can use parts of this sample that we haven't used before. That's good. Okay, got a few other syllables. Let's bring these back to our fill spot and see what we can do. What could be a slightly different rhythm? 2, 3, 4, da 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 da. Put a chop in the middle of this to give it some shuffle. Which woo do we want? Or this one? First one, and we want to send that to the delay again. Oh wait, we still need this bandpass filter. What's going on? This should be on for the whole section. So should the volume boost. Cool. All right, so now let's copy that over to the second repeat, and now we have a full verse section with these nice little extra fills. You know what? I want to try the instead of the woo here. Need an increase in volume for those guys. Yeah, I think the repeat of the instead of the woo is nicer for me. That's cool, let's move on. So we're gonna improve this fill. Maybe this wind type thing again. But just a really quick sweep. Another thing that would help is this lead is very dry, and I think a slight bit of delay on it for space would help it. Let's do a stereo thing. I'm gonna make this a time instead of a sync delay. So it's not gonna be locked into our DAWs BPM. It's just gonna be free, and it's not gonna be very strong, but it's just enough to give it some space rather than being a completely dry sound. Longer delay times, slightly more filtered, slightly less wet. Yeah, I think that's better than just dry like this. Although I guess there was a little bit of reverb on that, but it was not strong enough for me. Let's hear this part now. Okay, in context, that's a bit too strong. Gonna turn the feedback down a bit. Gonna turn the dry wet down a bit. Yeah, that's better for me. I hope you can see how much refinement of details goes into this stage. You're really dialing in like the perfect settings for every little bit of sound. What was my next note? A swell at the end of the verse. Let's use our same old baby wind swell from here. Great. Maybe it should be a longer one this time. Start it back a bit. All right, background texture. I have two thoughts here. Go to free sound. I either want like a vinyl crackle or maybe some ice cracking, some kind of crackly texture. Actually, what if we just put in crackle? And I'm just looking at the waveforms here because I definitely want something light and consistent. That's some nice vinyl. Yeah, let's go for vinyl crackle and see what happens. That feels nice. Okay, let's download that and put it in. There's a part here that's noisier than the rest. I'm gonna maybe use that as the end when everything's building up anyway, or maybe we'll just loop a smaller chunk of this, but it's already almost the perfect length. And I'll put some delay on this too, just so that the crackles are a little less distinct and there's also more of them. Let's high pass filter the whole thing. I'm gonna compress it so that it's mostly at the same level. Compression first in the chain. And actually that slight bit of hiss might be nice too, just a little bit of high-end energy. I think the delays are too strong and too fast. I like how it builds at the end. Let's see how it goes in the music now. Huh, okay, well, it needs to cut out with everything there, but I like what it's doing. Maybe not quite this much off the top, that loud part I'm just gonna cut out. Cool, I like that. And then we said we wanted to build more, so I'm gonna do the build before I decide how to end that vinyl thing. But one thing that we want is probably this riser. Starting here. And then it'll cut out there, and it should rise all the way through the pitch range before getting cut off. And so I am gonna cut off the vinyl crackle here because I want to do that impact thing again with the big snare clap reverb. Oh, and the scream. Let's do that whole thing too. The vocal buildup and the snare buildup. Do we want that? One step at a time. Big clap reverb. And the reverb turns off right away as per our trick. And we also want that cymbal impact for the one beat. To build this more, I think that the cutoff needs to get automated all the way up. Let's try this without the snare. I think for the first drop, I want that complete cutoff in sound, but one little vocalization, one little like yeah or something before we drop. Let's bring our wind swell back too. That'll help just for the tail end of this rise. That needs to cut off with everything else. I want to filter down rather than cutting off the reverb. Just a preference, I don't know. All right, cool. So we took care of these notes. I think I'm not feeling this sound. I wrote double, but maybe I can just adjust the sound. Let's just loop it. Yeah, just needed a nicer distortion. Done. Next note, swell at the end of the chorus. I think we're gonna keep using this wind sound. Or is it a riser? Yeah, a little 4-bar riser. Great. Same vocal fills from first verse. Yes, let's just copy those over. We only need half as many, because that verse is half as long. I think I'm gonna move the yeah to line up with this snare. Background texture, where my vinyl at? Variation on the icy stabs now. First line I came up with, let's put it down. Slightly adjust this timing. There's a blank space here that I'm hearing now. Didn't catch that first time through. Let's grab part of the bell tree that is that could be useful. Little chunk here, right there. Let's change the pitch of it just to make it even more different. I like that. Ooh, I like that. Okay, what did I mean here by fill? Right, it's blank. Let's use another loon for this fill, because I remember liking some of the loon sounds, but we only used one. Yeah, where do we want it to land? I guess that higher note landing right on beat here maybe makes the most sense. Maybe a beat earlier? Yeah, I like having that fall kind of lead us into the next bar. And improved drums. Oh yeah, this one was gonna be some work. Oh, you know what? We could bring the shaker back in here. The drums also feel kind of loud. The quietest drums are a little too quiet. I need this riser to cut off. Yeah, it just makes the impact better on the drop. We don't need to do this doubling sound because that was the same as the first drop where we made the distortion better. Next note, change timbre. More fun with hocketing? That's way too loud, but we'll deal with that in mixing. I wanted a swell here. Gonna bring that wind back. The quickest wind. Yeah. And then that blank spot I forgot about. What's gonna go there? What's a sound we haven't used in a while? Yeah, I just threw that in there to try that. I like it, but I want it to be distorted. Could have this treble kind of fade up. Or should it be like more steppy? Yeah, that's cool. One more like deep note here. Put the sub in. That's not the right note. Maybe with our bandpass trick again? Moving on. Vocal stutter. What did I have in mind here? We have vocal stutters surrounding that, so I'm not sure if this will work, but let's try it. Let's do triplets. Lose this hat too? Actually, if these are shorter, they might be better. A little more staccato. Yo, I think we're done. Oh man, okay. Hope this was helpful for you. I know there's a lot going on and I happened to develop a song for this lesson with a lot of different sounds in it, but yeah, maybe that just means there's a lot more for you to pull from as far as ideas. It's time for you to do some homework. I'll see you in the next lesson on mixing.